Hi, this is Yvette. I'm with KMC University. I hope that you are able to hear me today. We've had just a little bit of a hiccup as we've been getting started. I will be able to share my screen in just a moment with you all and get everything moving in the right direction for us today. But again, I appreciate ChiroSecure for inviting me to join you for today's call and hope that we find this time together to be very informative for you in your office. Wanted to take a quick moment, just kind of update you on where I've been since we were last here. I was at a client's office last week and was able to notice that there were some significant issues going on, and which is common when we go out to do an on-site visit. We love doing them. There's nothing like walking in and seeing fresh with our eyes what we know to be wrong. I hear commonly, I don't know what I don't know, which is very true. And I think if I had $1 for every time that I heard that, I would probably be a very wealthy woman. And that's why people come to things just like what ChiroSecure is putting on, or maybe even come over to KMC University for help. But last week, the very topic that I'm teaching on today was so laid out as an issue for this office that we were able to make some changes quickly. I have a coaching client. I don't take them often. My hands are quite full here with what I do at KMC University, but have been able to make a lot of progress with them on this very topic. And I think one of my favorite things that I heard recently, and I actually teared up. I had spent quite a bit of time helping my particular coaching client with her fee schedules, getting the foundation set to make sure that she was set up for success. And I got an email the next morning. I was tired. I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, I am so exhausted. And I thought, man, is it worth it? Is it worth it? And I get up the very next morning and here's an email from her that I cried. She said, Yvette, I was so afraid of those 3 little dots that would show up and show me this whole list of errors, and it took me hours and hours and hours to correct it. She said they were gone. She had a couple, but they could fix them. So we were able to make some fast progress, and it's probably the most powerful thing you can do in your practice is be proactive instead of being forced to be reactive. She said, I cannot begin to tell you how much time that I saved. I had a coaching call with her this morning, and it's been such a game changer. And I want to give a little piece of that to you. Obviously, I'm not going to be getting in on your system and setting things up appropriately, but hopefully some of the tools that I'll share today and answer some of those questions that may be out there that I hear all the time will be beneficial for you in your clinic. So we're going to go ahead and get that PowerPoint started for you and definitely cover as much ground as we can in this short time we have together. But I had to just take a moment and tell you from my heart what I saw last week. I'm not going into depth. That's their story. I'm sure you have your story in your clinic. But please know that a lack of foundation, a lack of training of your CAs will spell a disaster for your practice. It did for this one. And I literally, when I left, I don't tell this to too many people, but now I'm telling it out here on Facebook world and out in the world of ChiroSecure and all who watch. I cried when I left. I literally started crying. I hugged necks. Maybe that wasn't the COVID thing to do, but it was the thing here. And I cried because I realized such work ahead of them. Honored to have the opportunity to walk this journey with them, but please think about these foundational pieces. Think about training your staff. I'm telling you, when I couldn't even say the numbers 98941 and that staff understand it, there's a problem in your office. So make sure they're getting the training they're needing for you to be successful. And the doctor was so afraid staff was going to walk out. And I told her, I said, one reason staff will walk out of your office is because they're untrained. They don't know their expectations. And some things they don't have to necessarily be trained on if we build the foundation appropriately. So hopefully some of this will be a little bit of foundation, but training for you and your staff today. So as we move along, I'm going to talk quickly about the things that we'll cover in this call today. We are going to cover the art of using appropriate modifiers. That there was so much that was left undone that they were chasing their tail. I looked at the report from their biller, looked at the report from their clearinghouse, and it was so massive, and realizing it was probably just simply the modifiers not being put in their system. Their ledgers were a mess, nothing matched. They were creating, I don't know how many different case types to manage it. And while I was there, it was kind of peculiar. I'd done some training, and one of the staff members defaulted to her old system, and she went back and created a new case type. And I'm like, "May I ask why you did that?" And she said, "Well, that's the way we've done it." I said, "But understand the groundwork that I have laid for your office. You don't have to do it that way." So it improved efficiency. Definitely improved having to go from ledger to ledger to ledger to find out where to find things and chase your own tail. Getting the foundation set up correctly is just paramount. Also, issues with denials you may be seeing um, can come specifically from the diagnoses pointing that you may or may not be doing. So let's talk about that for really quick. Anytime we're doing a spinal CMT service with a muscle therapy, maybe we're doing the 97140. We know as an NCCI bundle that those cannot be reported in the same region. However, well, what if you adjusted the cervical and maybe you did some work in a hip with the myofascial release? If you just use the traditional ABCD, I did ABCD for this, ABCD for that, ABCD for that. Look at your claim form. If in box 24, I believe it's E, says ABCD, you have not mastered the art of diagnosis pointing. That CMS claim form is the only thing that they really get to tell the story of what happened in that clinic. And did you really do that 97140 for the whole spine at the same region you did the spinal CMT? We'll talk about that a little bit. Coverage limitations and how that applies out to patient responsibility, other big pitfall of this office I was at last week. And then just recognizing their requirements for non-coverage. We know Medicare has an ABN form, very specific rules to that. When we use it, when we don't use it, and what do other payers say? It's not the ABN form, but it may be a little bit similar. So let's go ahead and dive right in. When we're talking about the modifiers, I went out to one of the MACs, Medicare Administrative Contractors, and I pulled a sheet that they had that showed all of the different modifiers. And I thought, my gosh, we really think in chiropractic we're in a very small code set. But when it comes to modifiers, and I started pulling them on, I'm like, all right. Well, there are a lot in these categories that apply. Several I got to leave off, so don't worry. I didn't pull surgical over here, and I didn't pull some of these different therapy codes that we don't deal with or those things. But I thought it was really interesting that the modifiers that we deal with in the office are going to be regarding the advanced beneficiary notice. We know that's the CMT code, get the AT or the GA, hopefully not the GZ. That means you didn't get the ABN signed before you did that maintenance adjustment or for that series. We don't have to get them signed every visit, but there's some specific rules. And that GA and GZ are used one or the other depending on the proper execution of your ABN form. Bilateral. Did you do that on the left? Did you do it on the right? We have the chiropractic modifier, that's the AT. Can't use it. Please let me impress upon you something that I see every day at KMC University is a very high usage of AT. Oh yeah, well, that's built into our fee schedule. We bill that every single time. And I just sit there, and I'm glad I don't always share my video because I'm going, oh, it's either or oh, like that, because we don't always use the AT modifier. I dare to challenge anybody who uses that constantly, unless you completely discharge patients, you're a office and you discharge them, tell them don't come back until you have an issue that could be active treatment that we're rendering for you for your condition. That may be the extreme, but it's going to be very hard to substantiate that AT modifier, especially when your box 14 tells them it started about 3 years ago. Statutorily excluded modifiers, which is with Medicare. Gee, why Medicare? You may have noticed the title of what I was going to cover today. Gee, why Medicare? Do you never, ever, ever cover this? And we just have to go with the flow of what they tell us to do. Then that I touched on just a minute ago, those NCCI bundles where they say, well, you can't do this together. These two don't go on the same. You can't do this in the same region. Oh, you can't do a spinal CMT service and an E&M service in the same. Well, okay, that's why we have 25 modifier. That's why we have an XS. That's why we have a 59 modifier. That takes us down into that evaluation and management modifier. Fee for time compensation. Maybe somebody needs to come in and maybe needs to fill in for you for 60 days if you're going to be out of the office. You'll have your fee for time compensation. You may also have when there's reciprocal billing that's going on, which I didn't list here. Technical components, the TC, the 26 on some of your radiology services. Telehealth, that's big right now. I will tell you with telehealth, you may want to check individual payers. And then the therapy modifiers, which for us, generally that third one down is where we live in the outpatient therapy, which is at GP. So you may be seeing some denials with Medicare, VA, with United Healthcare regarding therapy 97 codes of the G0283 simply because you're leaving off the GP modifier. Now we know with Medicare, always therapies get GY Medicare, do you never cover this? And then GP goes with it. There's two. So with all of your services that you do for Medicare, there is only that certain subset of the 97 and the G0283 that actually have to have two modifiers. The rest are either GY, because with GY Medicare, do you never ever cover that? Or we have the AT or the GA and the hopefully not the GZ. So keep that in mind. So we'll go ahead and move along to the next. Now, one of the things I hear here commonly, well, I was told I have to do this modifier first, or I have to do that modifier first. Well, when it comes to coding, we think of this in the realm of payment modifier and informational modifier. Some people have the word statistical modifiers, but I went as far as to go that deep and say, all right, tell me which ones have to go first. Now, from a coding perspective, payment modifiers go first. Then you put your informational, the ones that kind of tell us the story. Well, Medicare, I know you don't cover it. Well, this was a part of therapy care. Well, this was a part of this. And they literally listed out those that would apply to chiropractic care would be your technical component, professional component, which you would be using with your x-ray. Believe it or not, in Massachusetts, I did an on-site visit back in March. And before I got there, I took one of my DCs with me that's on staff here. And she told me, she said, he never gets paid from Blue Cross and Blue Shield for x-rays. And I said, well, that will stop the minute I hit the door. I'm not tolerating that. That's not okay. And I went and I did medical policy research and found out there was no exclusion. And so we sat down to dinner. It was Sunday night. We sat down to dinner with the doctor. And I said, that buck ends right here. I'm done with that. That'll be settled in the morning. Well, anybody who knows me, it's not waiting till morning. I got on and I started doing some research and I started sniffing something. And I'm like, what's going on here? I get up the next morning. I think her name was Susie. I got a hold of there with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Massachusetts. And I said, tell me what's going on. It was the strangest thing I'd ever heard. I had to train one team member to be able to handle this. I wrote some policy on how it worked. They had you send the TC with one MPI, the 26 with another. So if you're in Massachusetts and you're having an issue, I encourage you to reach out to us because I have all this written out for them. So I know how to help you guys fix it. But it's crazy. But know that those are your payment modifiers, your bilaterals, your technical professional component. And you can see there at the bottom, it said, these payment modifiers are not limited to the first position. But if there's another pricing modifier, it goes to top, but pricing modifiers always go first. So some people like to argue with me, is it GP or GY first? Well, next screen, it really doesn't matter. It's an informational modifier, so it can go in either direction. Some people say, well, I've always heard it's this one. Right here's the MAC telling you these are informational modifiers. And these modifiers should be placed after the pricing modifier. So we go back, we see pricing modifier, and then we see the informational. Now that we have that out of the way and that it really doesn't matter if you got your GP or your GY first, let's go on. We can see here that as far as the AT modifier, which we referenced, I told you I do not feel that all spinal CMT services will have the AT modifier. I can just about say 99% of the time it will not. Again, if you're a pain doctor and telling them I don't want to see you, you send them out for wellness care and they only come to you for active treatment, which doesn't mean you're flipping diagnoses codes to get more coverage. Oh, we'll change it up here. Oh, okay, so let's change the date of onset. That's not how you manage AT. I encourage you to go look at the stipulations of using the AT modifier, because right here, straight from Medicare, not from Yvette's library, but from Medicare's library, we see that there is inappropriate usage when we use the AT modifier for maintenance services. Medicare defines maintenance. We have to observe and recognize, but they are who define maintenance. So as a doctor, you get this big, if you've seen me talk before on here, you've seen this big bubble of clinical appropriate thinking because you're a doctor. You're free to think. That's your bubble to think in. But inside that bubble is a little compartment way over here where the payer, Medicare, whoever it may be, says, well, this is my bubble. You put in my bubble only so much. You keep thinking what you want, but watch what that does. It really shrinks down on what they accept and on what you bill to them as medically necessary care. And getting that concept down really reduce your risk. I know that's what all this is about, really reduce your risk, and really will assist out in times of audit, record review, and things like that. You don't want to have inappropriate billing, nor do you want to have false claim act violations. I can tell you, I won't go into detail, but in the short time that I spent with this office, we had to write 4 compliance incident reports, and it's just the start. So make sure that you are doing things appropriately. Next, we're going to look at payer-specific modifiers. So you've got your Medicare maintenance here. I told you it's GA or GZ. GA, I got my ABN ahead of time. GZ, oh, geez, I forgot it. You're not going to collect, but still make sure you get the appropriate modifier on. If the patient already was touched, geez, you forgot. If the patient wasn't touched yet and you're telling them ahead of time, it's GA. I got that ahead of time. Always verify with the Medicare Advantage companies. I had some around here where I'm at in West Virginia that did not observe this GAGZ. They actually spoke in that language that a lot of commercial payers speak in, and that's S8990. I'm going to pause here for a moment because I think it's important for someone to know here today. When you're submitting services to Medicare, the patient has elected option 1 on that ABN form for the spinal CMT to go over for maintenance. Please be cautious. When you get payment from the secondary, now if they have a true secondary, supplement won't do it, but they have a true secondary. So around here we have a lot of Federal Blue Cross Blue Shield, Medicare primary, Federal Blue Cross and Blue Shield secondary. Know that that secondary generally does not talk in the language of GAGZ. They talk in the language of S8990. So when you send it over to Medicare and it's maintenance, because patient chose option 1, a lot of times you're going to be paid from that true secondary, which is a mistake. Yes, the air just left your room. I encourage you to do proper verification of services with that secondary. And when that secondary pays you, when Medicare looked at it as maintenance, you need to notify that secondary payer that they paid an error because it was maintenance. You may have to go back and switch to S8990 to get it to go across. Definitely look into this further, because I commonly say, well, their secondary covers it. Really? I know Federal Blue Cross and Blue Shield like the back of my hand. And I can tell you right now that they don't cover maintenance. Look at the medical policy. You'll be able to find out there that they don't. And when you get paid, unfortunately, the patient's not going to be happy. But if you get audited, your office will be a lot happier. And that's who you have to protect. As we move along, we can see that we have also some payer specific, again with Medicare, but it also hits over there in that land you see me dropping out is GY, Medicare, do you never cover it? Every service minus spinal CMT. And then I'm not even talking about GX. If you want to talk about it, give us a call. I don't think you should ever talk about it, um, because there's other ways to handle that. But then there's that GP, got some PT, got therapy going on and a therapy plan of care. We see that Medicare requires it, VA, UHC, and then I put down there, what about your payer? Do you know? That's where you go out and find all these medical review policies, ask specific questions, keep in touch with those payer specific bulletins that they release, their webinars, and things like that. Know your payers and know what their modifiers are, because what you're going to end up doing is just like the office I'm coaching right now. Like I said, I don't coach very often, but there's sometimes I have to come out because of complexity of issue or a specific topic, and I have to take someone on and get us over this hurdle and then pass them on over to someone else. Similar with Kathy, we both will take some intense cases and pass along. But many times we find it's at this very root of modifier issues. The denials are piling, they're not understanding how to fight it. And really, the fight was way back here, and it was in being proactive. Modifiers for statutorily excluded services, I've talked about that. GY is the only one for the E&M and the X-ray. And then on all the therapy codes, we have a combination. So you can see that I laid that out there. And when they have a supplement, it's a voluntary submission. It really is a voluntary submission to Medicare for their statutorily excluded services. As we move along, we have those distinct things that are separate and distinct. This is a denial, automatic denial. I'm just going to put it out there. You're not going crazy. Probably, I think it was back around 2017 for some of the payers, they implemented a new software at the payer level that said, we're throwing out every 25, every 59 excess out of here. It's an automatic, prove it to me. So don't take that laying down, because really all they're doing is saying, prove it to me. But know when you are using those that you are meeting the bullet points to be able to substantiate using the 25. It was separate and distinct. Know the policy on what qualifies with that payer. Know what happens when they say, I only allow one of these a year. Okay, how do I shift this responsibility to the patient? Sorry, patient, you owe me today. Wrong answer. If you're dealing with ash, you've got a form that has to be filled out every single time, signed off on every single time you're going to do a service they don't cover. Medicare with spinal CMT will allow you to do it for up to 1 year unless it's interrupted by another period of active care. So you've got to know the payer you're dealing with. You've got to know what the contract says, what the policy says on shifting over the liability to the patient. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. 59 modifier. In our land, if you're having to move over to the X series, remember this, 59 means it's something above and beyond. This is how you'll never forget it, XS. It's in excess of something. 59 generally will crosswalk over to the XS modifier. XS is more distinct in its description. A lot of payers will say default back to the 59 if you can't use one of the XS, XE or XP or XU, but typically XS will work quite well. But again, we talked about the 97140, the 97114, 97124, 97112. Those codes generally cannot be performed in the same region as the spinal CMT. If you are, it's just part of the work of the CMT service. If it's truly separated and you're not using diagnoses pointer, it reminds me of Barney Fife, that shot himself in the foot all the time. And just make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot and like, but that shouldn't be. What story did you tell on your claim form? That's the only thing they get to see. Tell the story from the beginning and up your chance on getting paid without having to be reactive, be proactive. Common chiropractic modifiers for radiology services. Aetna, Medicare started it. We know that doesn't pertain to us, but it's like 1, 2, 3. Here comes a little duck, 4, 5, 6, and a little duck. Aetna was one of the first ones. If you're using digital, if you're not using digital film and you're on plain film, include the FX modifier. We will see more and more payers going towards this plain film. I'll call it penalty, as if it doesn't take you more time to go back and develop that in the suite and deal with all the smells and all that. But they say FX modifier. I put down there the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Massachusetts so you could see that 26 and TC separate MPIs. Crazy, crazy, but it was their rule. And guess what? They're getting paid now. The GY, the FX, what does your payer say? KX. We've seen a lot of KX. It used to be years ago when I worked for a third party billing company. KX was more with just your therapy clinics, your outpatient occupational physical clinics. We saw that, but I'm seeing that come up more and more. Could even be in your DME stuff. Laterality, we'll notice that we have some of the modifiers coming in as in your LT and RT. Your fee for service, time compensation, or your reciprocal billing. Those are some of the others. Q6, you got somebody coming in and they're going to be covering for a period of no more than 60 days at a time, or maybe somebody's just filling in from their office from a distance. Obviously, some rules around that. DME, NU, new unit, RR, they're renting it. LT specifies the left, RT right. You'll see that a lot with however you're doing your billing with orthotics. 1 unit LT, 1 unit RT, or 2 units. Definitely want to verify with your payers on any other requirements that may be there. So where does this all lay out? As you're looking here on my screen, this is common issues we have. I encourage you take a screen snip right now because it's more than what I'm going to talk about. So you might as well take a look and take advantage of what's in front of you. This is one of our tools from KMC University. But it is 24E with the diagnoses pointer where we're seeing the issue. One thing just to put in front of you, October 1st, there were some updates to some ICD-10 codes. Make sure you're not using any deleted and always using those more specific codes that were just released. Kind of staying cognizant of our time. Just make sure that 24E tells the story. Where did you do the CMT? Okay, A, B, and C, great. Where did you do the 97140? Because you can't do A, B, C, D. Oh, yeah, I did that in F. Don't put A, B, C, D down there. It happened in F. That's your story. Stick to it. This is the only way to be proactive. Get your modifiers on here correctly. Get your diagnoses pointers on here correctly to up your chance. And again, it's not foolproof because they want you to chase your tail. As we move along to the next slide, you can see some of them that we just highlight, that's those areas, and you can see they're a little bit better kind of without all the garbly around it, that we've got 24E laid out there as one of your big places of issue, and also in D. Those are your modifier and your diagnoses pointers. No, anything that you're putting on that claim form has your signature at the bottom. You may not be getting out your pen and writing your name every time, but I bet you it says signature on file. So be careful of anything that you're sending out because if you haven't read the back of the form, I encourage you to do that. It pretty much lays it out there that you know what you're doing and you're attesting you know what you're doing when you're sending it. And by signing the other side, you take all liability. I tell people, know your risk. If you're willing to do Autobahn speed in your 25-mile-an-hour school zone, be prepared for that penalty that comes along. And they tell you ahead of time what it's going to be. So if you've never taken the time to flip over that CMS 1500 form, do so. It is a federal document. Make sure you're doing it appropriately. So going back, recapping a few things, making sure on your NCCI edits, which remember back in the beginning, I talked about your CMT, your E&M services, your CMT, your muscle therapies and things like that. Utilize your diagnosis pointing, utilize appropriate modifiers, reference your payer policy, follow the rules, and know that they have them there for a reason. Why do they not allow CMT and E&M? Because there is a pre, post, and intra work to the CMT service that does mimic somewhat of an E&M service. You've got to evaluate, especially if you're a full spine adjuster, you're evaluating, you're doing some form of evaluation, but there's times it's above and beyond that. And that's when your documentation should prove it, back it up, 25 modifiers should stand, and appeal as necessary. KMC University, in our third-party billing and collections department, down in section 6 or 7, if you're our member, you'll see that we already have template letters that you would use for these very situations for appeals. when they try to deny your CMT with your evaluation and management, when they try to deny your CMT with your muscle therapies. There's a whole host of them that we have there. One of the biggest ways I told you to build it out is making sure your modifiers are correct. Input, output, whatever you're putting in at the very beginning, when you get the key to that software, remember this is success, the key to success. Turning that key to the software, set yourself up for success from the beginning. Because if it's not there, it's not going to show up in that image below it. And we're going to have all kinds of issues. Now, this one I didn't, what I gave you here in front of me as that sample wasn't Medicare. So nobody scrutinized me. You're missing the AT or the GA. I'm not. I'm using this for an example of something like UHC, where you've got to have your GP modifier on there. And it was in addition, so I needed my 59 or maybe my excess with this payer. Make sure you build that foundation so when you hit that little magic button, it automatically does the work. Why chase your tail, having your staff go back and say, okay, that's UHC. Oh, I had the GP here. Who's next? 150 patients later. You don't have time for that. Set yourself up for success. I think this is kind of my unsaid job here at KMC University, is the passion about that. And usually if somebody needs their fee schedules blown out, they purchase multiple hours with me and I set it up remote in as if I'm sitting there and fix it for them. And then again, remember your diagnoses pointing, where did it happen? Don't tell me your CMT and your exercise or wherever. You can have your exercise and CMT together, but tell me where you did it. Your CMT needs to say, this is where I adjusted. Don't let it tell us a region you didn't adjust in. Same with your exercise. If you didn't exercise from stem to stern, don't tell me. Catch me right in the middle and tell me I just did stem. And let me know where you went. As we're coming towards a little bit closer to close, we'll know that 10 minutes is the average length of time it takes to locate and research a medical's payer policy. All throughout this, I've said, know what your payer says. It's your key to success. Know how to set yourself up. If I had a moment, which I don't, I don't work in an office anymore. I work at KMC University, but I would blow your mind with all of the medical review policies that I keep here for my staff to reference to help our clients. And it's not all of them. I had over 150 policies before I left the local office, and I needed to know that the health plan of the Upper Ohio Valley did not pay for spinal CMT services. I also needed to know, well, how do I have the patient pay for that? Oh, I use your form. I give it to the patient at this frequency before we do it, and then I can charge them. Got it. Got it. And then my fee schedule would keep that as a patient fee. Then we look over here that 55% of DCs and CAs admitted they didn't seek guidance. Shame on you. Shame on you. You're setting yourself up to send in services under a code that they say is experimental and investigational. You're setting yourself up for denial after denial. You're setting yourself up to lose money. No one can afford that. If you had that old Facebook video, ain't nobody got time for that. No one has time to lose money. And when you lose money because one, it got denied, your staff has to chase it. Your staff doesn't know what to do. You're just setting yourself up for failure. A lack to plan is a lack to succeed. And just make sure that you're doing that correctly. Looking up medical review policy is very easy. I'm the queen. I'm known to have a magical computer, but while I was traveling on the on-site last week, one of my specialists said, I need some help. And they couldn't find it. And they're like, I know you don't have your magic computer on, which is right here. This is the magic computer. But you know what? I said, it's not my computer. I just found it on my phone. And it's kind of a joke around here, but it literally took me no time to find exactly what that client was looking for, answered the question like that. Ask them if you can't find it on their website, ask them. Aetna's is the easy. Everybody has an assignment from here. Go Google Aetna chiropractic policy and read it. It's going to scare you, I promise. It scares everybody. This is theirs. Go look for it yourself. We don't have time to go over it, but I'm telling you, please, please, please have oxygen on standby, especially if you do any of the services that they say is experimental and investigational. It will blow your mind. Last office I worked in, we had to go off, off, off. Why are we even in with Aetna? They don't cover anything we do. They have a right to monitor. This is in Nebraska that they have a right to monitor your compliance program, so know that. And anytime you're going to do a new service in your office, investigate. Check your board, check your payer, check your coding. Don't rely on the person who made that piece of equipment. I'm not going to call Magnolia Homes. That's where this is from. Magnolia, my Magnolian heart. Oops. I'm not going to call them and say, how do I code this? How do I code this? No, you have to know how to code it per the CPT guidelines. CPT tells you how to code it. FDA, how that thing was approved. So I'm pulling out really quick just to show you. This tells you how to code it, not the manufacturer. They may have an idea that can point to it, but know for a fact exactly what that is. And then in charging the patient, find out what you can do to charge the patient and have them be liable. Is it with Medicare and ABN form? Is it you don't have to do the ABN form for the statutorily excluded services with Medicare? Does the payer have their own policy? Can you use a generic one like in the office management section of the KMC library in section 1? We have that in there for you. And just know the rules. Do they cover habilitative therapy? And keep your fees consistent. Don't change your fees or your code because they're cash. Know the rules. This was specifically from Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They have their own form. Limited patient financial waiver is common language. It's definitely not going to be ABN because they don't speak that language, but know if the payer has their own. In closing, I don't know if you know this yet, but you should know by now KMC University keeps their ears very low to the ground. Sometimes we're slower to say something than others because we know it's in comment phase and we're not going to cause unnecessary havoc. But we do know that the ICD-10 change took place, and it isn't in comments, it's in live, and we have every tool that you need to help navigate through that. ABN implementation, remember that that is going to be due on January 1st, and E&M coding. If you're a member of KMC University, you can find the ICD-10 codes on the dashboard top right. ABN implementation is down on the bottom right in the ABN alphabet soup lesson. And then the new E&M coding is going to be on the right under our recent webinars. So you're going to notice all the tools you need there if you need any help and you need some KMC University, just know that we have you covered. Definitely appreciate you guys attending today. If you should have any questions, there's our phone number. You know where to find us. Press option 1. Tell them that crazy lady Yvette talked to me today and told me all this crazy stuff about everything that I have to do and get myself set up for success. I encourage you next week, I pardon for going on a couple of minutes, to join with Dr. Sherry McAllister when she's going to have your next session of growth. And I'm sure you're going to have a great time. She's an excellent speaker. I've enjoyed looking at some of these. Thank you for attending. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you today. I hope it's been helpful. I know it should have been. Have a great day. Bye-bye.